اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. طاسيم. تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. نتلو عليك من نبأ موسى وفرعون بالحق. نتلو عليك من نبأ موسى وفرعون بالحق لقوم يؤمنون. إن فرعون علا في الأرض وجعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم يذبح أبناءهم ويستحيي نساءهم إنه كان من المفسدين. ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. ونمكن لهم في الأرض ونري فرعون وهامان وجنودهما منهم ما كانوا يحذرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، شفيع المذنبين، حبيب إله العالمين، خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين، أبي القاسم محمد. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Amma ba'ad, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we are reaching you in a good state, mentally, physically, and spiritually, inshallah, in these digital times. Unfortunately, we are doing Nima Sha'ban, the 15th of Sha'ban, apart from one another, and that is a difficult thing because this is the kind of Eid, the kind of occasion we want to be together, to celebrate, to see one another's faces, and to bring joy to one another in physical proximity. Inshallah, these vaccines can work and we can have this on their way soon, inshallah. I'd like to begin by congratulating everyone on the 15th of Sha'ban, on the birth anniversary, the wilada of this final hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth, on this baqiyatullah, this preserved individual that Allah has kept, that Allah has preserved for humanity, to bring him back one day and fill the earth with justice and peace, insha'Allah ta'ala. May Allah make all of you the good companions of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. May Allah accept this gesture of ours, this gathering, this digital gathering that we have. May it please Imam Mahdi ajalallah ta'ala farajahu sharif. I want to speak about an issue that I think can cause some misconceptions regarding the terminology of ghaiba. Now, ghaiba is sometimes translated as occultation, right? We say we are living in the period of occultation. Sometimes it is translated incorrectly as absence, right? Because literally, term can mean absence in certain circumstances. So the word ghaiba in Arabic can be translated in a few different ways, and we see this in the Quran and the Hadithi literature. So one way that it can be translated is in opposition to presence, right? So you have absence and presence, or hudur, right? There is something that is there and there's something that is not there. And that thing that is not there is referred to as ghaiba, similar to, roll call. If you have in your high school or college or, elementary school or what have you, when they come and they recite the names to see who's present and who's absent, right? We could use the word ghaiba in that context. Another context, though, that is closer to our understanding, the Shia fiqh understanding of what the ghaiba actually is, what period we are living in, is in opposition to shuhud, or to bearing witness, to seeing something, to perceiving something. So in the Quran, we have, when it talks about the muttaqin, it says they are those who yu'minuna bil ghaib. They believe in the unseen. So here the term is translated as unseen, right? Not that they believe in the absent, because part of that unseen is what? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all present, always present, everywhere present. He is unseen in the sense that these two eyes and the sockets of my skull do not perceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The malaika, we know that there's an angel on the right side, on the left side, and they're documenting our behaviors. We know that there's angels for other occasions. For the 15th of Sha'ban, there's going to be the descension of angels from the heavens. There's all of this happening around us, but we do not perceive it. And so in that sense, it is ghaib. It is the unseen. So the concept of ghaiba then is that which is hidden from our comprehension. And this is something I want to expand upon a bit this evening, inshallah. So first, Imam Zaman alayhi salam is not absent. He is living a normal day-to-day life similar to you and I. He walks, the narration says that he walks on the carpets or on the rugs that you have walked on. Allahu Akbar. right, is trying to illustrate to us it is very literal, very physical, that the Imam is amongst us. Another narration says that he is present for Hajj every single year. He is doing the tawaf of the Kaaba, Safa and Marwa. He is going to Mina. He is doing all of the procedures of Hajj, the same as all of the other Hujjaj. And the other Hujjaj are going to see him, and they can even speak to him, but they do not perceive who they are speaking to. That's the difference. One of the scholars, the brothers, Hujjat al-Islam al-Muslimin, Hajj Shomali, Dr. Shomali, is a very good scholar, good asset for Western communities as well. May Allah preserve and protect him. He gave this analogy. He says that it's as if you are sitting on a long plane ride, and on the plane ride, there is somebody that you're sitting next to who is a great arif, a great mystic, someone who is very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you might even make small talk with him. It's a long flight. Where are you coming from? How long are you going to be there? But you still have no idea who you are sitting next to. Right? He says this is the analogy that is closest to understanding what ghaiba is. Another analogy that is given is from Amir al-Mu'minin, the time of Amir al-Mu'minin rather, when he was walking past a woman who was bad-mouthing him. She was saying that Ali has done this, Ali has done that. She was bad-mouthing Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he asks her, what has Ali done to you? And as she is going on about these complaints, he's also asking her, how can I help you? Looks like you are distressed. And what had happened is this woman's husband had gone off to war, gone off to jihad for Islam, and he became shaheed there. And she was complaining that life is hard without my husband. Providing for these kids and raising them and so forth is difficult. And Amir al-Mu'minin is helping her. You've likely heard the story, that he is helping her all day long until one of the neighbors notices who this is, and he sees that Ali alayhi salam is crawling on the floor with this woman's children on his back. Right? He's giving them these kind of horsey rides that we do with our children. And she is surprised, and she approaches this lady. Do you have any idea who this man is? This is the Khalifa himself. This is Ali himself. And so the transition from her not knowing to knowing is just in that introduction. Right? This is an important concept. The transition is simply in the introduction, that now she didn't know who Ali was, and now she simply does know who Ali alayhi salam is. So Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajalallah ta'ala farajahu sharif, unlike some reports that people have, some stories that people tell, he's not hiding away all these years in a cave. He's not hiding away all these years in a well in Samarra somewhere. He's not up in the skies, in the heavens, and is going to come down someday, right? He is present in the sense that he is amongst us, but we do not recognize him. Now, let me give you a few concepts of different kinds of ways that our souls can be oriented with regard to presence and absence and these kinds of things. And then we can use this comparison to look at Imam Zaman Ajalallah Ta'ala Faraj Sharif's state currently. So when we see the concept of sleep come up, an important concept in Islam, it comes up in the Quran, it comes up in narrations. One thing that we read is Allah yatawaffa al-anfus حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala receives the souls of individuals when they die. Right? We know this, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. But also, for those people who do not die, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala receives their souls when they go to sleep. So in a sense, sleep is kind of like a minor death, if you will. It's kind of the most similar thing to death that we can experience without dying, is what sleep is. Then it says, فَيُمْسِكُ الَّتِي قَضَى عَلَيْهِ الْمَوْتِ. And for those people who it is written for them, it is ordained for them that they should die, then simply their souls are withheld from returning to their bodies before waking time comes. Right, the word here is yomsik, comes from imsak. We see this word a lot during the month of Ramadan, for example. Right, it's holding something back, withholding something. During the month of Ramadan, we withhold the food and the drink during that period. We hold back from consuming that during the period of imsak. So Allah holds back those souls from returning to their bodies, and this is how they die. And then it says, وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. And for those people who it is written for them to live another day, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send back their souls to their bodies. The word here is yursel, right? There's these nuances in our literature that is very important. Irsal is what it comes from, right? To send something to another place, send something back, for example. This is the condition of sleep, right? A lot of us take this for granted. Sleep is a state where it is a process, it's an active process where Allah is withholding your soul and Allah is sending back your soul. If that action doesn't happen, if Allah doesn't send back your soul, then you are dead. Right? Every time you die, Allah has to send your soul back. Every time you sleep, rather, Allah has to send back your soul to your body for you to wake up. So there is a place the ulama say that you should say Alhamdulillah when you wake up. Right? You recognize that this is the process that happened this past night, that my soul went off and it came back. Allah ordained for it to come back. Allah ordained that I have another day. So I say Alhamdulillah for something like that. And this is why there's a lot of discussion on sleep and the fact that the soul is its freest. It can rest during that time. Not only your body is resting, but your soul is the most detached from the physical realm that it can be. And all of the physical attachments are burdens on your soul. It is difficult, it is cumbersome on the soul, all of this material stuff. And so when it detaches itself, it is more free and it can rest. And there are a lot of recommendations as to how to optimize this rest of the soul, if you will. That you make wudu before you go to sleep, that you recite certain ayahs from the Quran or certain surahs from the Quran before you go to sleep, because you're getting ready for a departure of sorts. In a very real sense, there is going to be a departure of your soul. To sleep on your back and face the heavens is another recommendation. There's so many of these recommendations that we can go through with regard to sleep. And for those people who observe them, then they are able to receive maximal benefit from it. Their souls can go places. It can travel places. This is why we have the concept of ru'ya sadiqa, and some people experience this more often than others. These are true dreams. We have different kinds of dreams during different parts of the night. Some of these dreams are just, your subconscious trying to figure things out. Right? You have a bunch of activities during the day and your mind is sorting them out and categorizing them so that the next day you can benefit from the wisdom that you've gained from the previous day. But sometimes those dreams, after those dreams pass, there are true dreams, meaning that your soul is actually gone somewhere, has experienced something, has gained some wisdom, has gained some new knowledge, has witnessed something. There's shuhud, and then it returns to the body. As there's a sayr, there's something that has happened over the course of a night like that. right? And so there's a lot of discussion around sleep, and especially the sleep of Rasulullah and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, and how it is of a different nature completely than our sleep. So it says, وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى, Allah sends back the soul every night after you sleep. He sends it back to the body. Now, a different terminology is used when Allah is talking about somebody who actually dies, someone who passes away. And if their soul is going to come back to their body, it is a different process, because now the soul and the body are completely detached from one another. For example, when Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, Jesus, the son of Mary, has the miracle of bringing the dead back to life. In that case, the word irsal is not used. The word ruju' is used in those circumstances. Or we have a verse that is talking about the day of judgment, when people who realize that they have died and they're not pleased with their own actions, then it says, حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَ أَحَدَهُمُ الْمَوْتِ قَالَ رَبِّ ارْجِعُونِ. They say, oh Allah, can I go back? And the word here is irja'un, right? Come from raja'at. We have this concept, right? So this is an individual raja'at, where Isa ibn Maryam, for example, raises somebody, or these people are asking for an individual raj'at on the Day of Judgment, which Allah does not grant to them. And then we have the concept of raj'at, of course, as Shi'as, after the coming back, the return of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. We have the concept of raj'at there as well, right? Where people who have died, whose bodies may have decayed, they come back, right? So this is a different process, and this is a return, right? So rather than it sending the soul back, it is a more significant kind of process. And finally, third item that we want to compare tonight is with regard to Jesus, the son of Mary, Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ, that I have brought you, I have received you myself, and I have ascended you. Allah has taken Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, and taken him up somewhere different, somewhere away from this realm, right? Again, this is very different from Imam Mahdi ajalallah ta'ala farajahu sharif, what happened to Jesus alayhi salam. And so the narration, when it talks about Isa's return, it uses a very particular word. It says, إِذَا نَزَلَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ وَإِمَامُكُمْ فِيكُمْ. That day is when Jesus, the son of Mary, will descend while your Imam is amongst you. That is the description of the day that it is given, right? So he is not being sent back in the sense of irsal, or returning in the sense of ruju', but he is descending because he ascended to begin with. He went somewhere else. It's not that Jesus fell asleep or that he died. A different process happened to him, right? It was an ascension, and so it requires a descension for him to return. For Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, none of these are the what is a descriptive circumstance for him. He is not asleep like the people of the cave, for example. We have in Surah Kahf that they were asleep for 300 some years and Allah woke them up, right? That's not his situation. He is not deceased that he is going to return. He has not been risen or ascended like Isa alayhi salam. So what is it that this ghaiba is? How do we understand the ghaiba of Imam Zaman alayhi salam? All of the ulama concur that the ghaiba, when it ends, we're not going to use the word ruju', we're not going to use the word irsal, we're not going to use the word nuzul. Rather, we use the word zuhur. Zuhur in what sense? In the sense that now we know who he is. Now he is apparent to you and I. We can directly know who he is. This is the concept of zuhur. And how will the zuhur happen? Very simply, it is an introduction. Just like in the story we said about Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, how once he was introduced to this lady, then she knew who he was. Just like you and I, if we go to a new gathering, a setting where people don't know who we are, you introduce yourself. This is my name, this is what I do, and you move forward that way, right? It is that simple. It is the concept of ghaiba and zuhur lies. Simply, the Imam will come in front of the Kaaba and he will call out to the people of the world, Allah, ya ahl al-alam, ana baqiyatullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That all people of the world, I am that individual which Allah has saved. I am that individual which Allah has preserved for this time to bring justice and peace back to the earth. And once he makes this announcement, then we have Isa alayhi salam, who has the nuzul, then he will come down as well. But it's a different thing. Isa is somewhere else. Imam Mahdi is not somewhere else. If the Shia understand that Imam Mahdi is not somewhere else, then one effect that it has, brothers and sisters, is that we will feel free to have a relationship with him the way that we would want to have it after he is apparent to us. We could have that relationship right now because he is not anywhere distant. When they ask the ulama, these great mystical scholars, and I'm quoting people like Ayatollah Bahjat rahmatullah alayh, how do we talk to our Imam? They say that simply utter your words, and before you utter them, he will already know them. Allahu Akbar. I want to conclude with one story from one of the Nawab, one of the four Nawab. We know that at the time of the minor occultation, we had these four individuals who were the access points, the representatives of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. And so there's an individual, and this is quoted by Allama Majlisi rahmatullah alayhi, very authentic sources in Bihar al-Anwar, and he is quoting from Kamaluddin of Shaykh al-Saduq rahmatullah alayhi. You know, Shaykh al-Saduq is Shaykh al-Muhaddithin. He's one of the very early scholars, lived at a period of time just after the occultations had begun. Now, he's writing an event from Muhammad ibn Hassan Sayrafi. This Muhammad ibn Hassan Sayrafi is someone who lived in Balkh in modern-day Afghanistan. And he was going to make the pilgrimage for Hajj. And to make the pilgrimage for Hajj, before that, people came to him and they gave him their khums and their wujuhat that belonged to the Imam. And they trusted him with these items. And it was gold and silver, typically, the kind of stuff that they gave him. And what he had done, because the gold and silver wasn't uniform, right? Some of it is objects, some of it is coins. It might be a golden bowl or a cup, all these different things that they had. So he, to make it easy, he goes and he melts the gold and he turns it into these strands, or you can think of it as leaves of gold. And the same thing he does with the silver, and it makes it easy for him to put in bags and for transportation and so forth. So he makes this journey for Hajj, and he stops in a place called Sarakhs. And in Sarakhs, he says, I decided to set up camp. I put my tent up, and I was resting there, and I decided to count the gold and count the silver to make sure that everything is as it ought to be. So he does this, and once he is rested, he gets up again, he travels some more, and he stops again in another place, and he counts again. This time when he is counting the gold and the silver, he notices that the gold, there's one of these strands or one of these leaves of gold that is missing. And so what does he do? You know, you and I, we might say, you know what, I've traveled, I did my job, these people trusted me and I did my best, so it's not my fault anymore, right? But this man is an honorable man. May Allah bless his soul. He says, I will take from my own personal wealth and replace this khums that somebody else gave that I lost, and I will replace it like that. So he says that I took one of these golden leaves, min mali biwaznaha sabikatan. and I took it. It was the same weight as the one that was lost, right? So he knows the weights. That's why he made it into these leaves, and he replaces it that way. He says, when I arrived in Baghdad, I had an audience with Sheikh Abul Qasim Hussein ibn Ruh, this Na'ib Khas of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajuh Sharif. He says, when I was with Hussein ibn Ruh, Hussein ibn Ruh took his finger and he went directly for that strand that I had replaced from my personal wealth. He lifted it and he handed it back to me. And he told me, he says, this belongs to you, keep it. This man wanted to replace it so that he is not obliged, because he lost it. It was his fault, he felt. Hussein Naru says, keep this. And then he says, when you perform your Hajj and you go back to Balkh, go down the same route. When you reach Sarakhs, in that same place where you erected your tent, put your tent in that same place again and look over there. The ground is sand, it is not dirt, right? It's raml, as they called it, right? It's small pebbles rather than dirt, right? So things can sink into it easily. And he says, it's just under the surface. Over there, you will find the strand that you lost. Next year, when you come back for Hajj and you bring in the khoms and the wujuhat, you can bring that back at that point. But this one right here, this is yours, keep it. You don't need to replace it that way. And then he says, but next year when you come back, I will not be here. You will need to be sure of the next na'ib and that give the wujuhat and the khums to that individual. Now we say this story just because we are talking here about the na'ib of the imam. We're not talking about the imam himself. We're talking about Hussein ibn Ruh, this blessed individual who has this kind of intimate access to the activities of this man who's coming from Balkh. He knows his routes, he knows where he stopped, he knows that he lost the gold leaf, he knows why he replaced it. He knows how he can find it again. He knows that he will die by next year. He has all of this knowledge. What do we think the knowledge of Imam al-Zaman Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajuh Sharif is like if this is his representative? What do we understand the knowledge of Imam Zaman to be like if he is present, if he is amongst us, as we have described this evening? If he is not absent in the sense that some people might perceive that he is absent. This is where we can start to gain confidence that if you want to speak to your imam, just like the ulama, like Ayatollah Bahjat say, all you need to do is utter the words. Think about Hussein ibn Ruh. How did he know where this gold leaf was? How did he know the intentions of this man and how he replaced his own wealth? With Imam al-Zaman, simply utter the words to him. And the Imam Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajuh Sharif, before you even utter them, will understand that communication. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to add to our ma'rifah and our understanding of the Imam of our time and to make us amongst his good companions, inshallah ta'ala. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعظم يا الله 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 اللهم اغفر لوالدينا ولوالدي والدينا وارحم موتانا واغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وانصر إخواننا المسلمين واحفظ قائدنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. जागे हुए फितनों को سلانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، اب بیت گئے کتنے زمانے چلے آؤ، 1100 برس کیسے گزارے میرے آقا، 1100 برس کیسے گزارے میرے آقا، غیبت میں جو گزری ہے سنانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، جب آنا ہوا جانا مگر خواب میں میرے، جب آنا ہو آ جانا مگر خواب میں میرے، کب آؤ گے مولا یہ بتانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، یہ ماتمی ہے اور یہ نمازی یا کوئی اور، یہ ماتمی ہے یہ ہے نمازی یا کوئی اور، ان ساری فصیلوں کو گرانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو، ہو قادر مطلق کی تم ہی آخری حجت، ہو قادر مطلق کی تم ہی آخری حجت، مجبوروں کو مختار بنانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، ہر سمت رواں ہے ابو سفیان کا سکہ، ہر سمت رواں ہے ابو سفیان کا سکہ، سکہ ابو طالب کا چلانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، غازی کا علم آپ کے لشکر کا نشاں ہے، غازی کا علم آپ کے لشکر کا نشاں ہے، کعبے پہ اسے مولا سجانے چلے آؤ، کعبے پہ اسے مولا سجانے چلے آؤ، جاگے ہوئے فتنوں کو سلانے چلے آؤ، اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، الاجال مسیح دنیا، الاجال قرار دل ها، الاجل دل ما بی قرار توست، الأجل عزیز زهرا الأجل بقیت الله الأجل جهان در انتظار توست یا ابن الحیدر به ساعت تو روز و شب سلام یا ابن الحیدر به دست تو شمشیر انتقام یا ابن الحیدر به دست تو شمشیر انتقام منی که هستم بیقرار تو الهی باشم در کنار تو یکی شبیه مهزیان تو یکی شبیه مهزیان تو یا ابن الزهرا یا صاحب الزمان 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 روی تو نیاز عشقم سوی تو نماز عشقم بوی تو میاد شبای جمع کران موی تو کلاف عشقم سوی تو طواف عشقم سوی تو سه شنبه های جمع کران یا ابن الزهرا سرور قلبی فی زیارتک یا ابن الزهرا دعا بوفقنی لطاعتک یا ابن الزهرا دعا بوفقنی لطاعتک همیشه کارت مهربونیه با اسمت عالم آسمونیه گدا به دنبال نشونیه گدا به دنبال نشونیه همیشه کارت مهربونیه با اسمت عالم آسمونیه گدا به دنبال نشونیه گدا به دنبال نشونیه یا ابن الزهرا یا صاحب الزمان 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 ای پادشه خوبان دادن غم تنهایی دل بی تو به جان آمد وقت است که بازآیی یا مولای سیدی یا صاحب الزمان بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا محافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك تهوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Inshallah, we will conclude with the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein for tonight, 15th of Sha'ban. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Khatam al-Nabiyyin. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Sayyid al-Mursalin. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوسيمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا حسين بن علي. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ولي الله وابن وليه. السلام عليك يا سفي الله وابن سفيه. السلام عليك يا حجة الله وابن حجته. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله وابن حبيبه. السلام عليك يا سفير الله وابن سفيره. السلام عليك يا خازن الكتاب المستور. السلام عليك يا وارث التوراة والإنجيل والزبور. السلام عليك يا أمين الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك الغربان. السلام عليك يا عمود الدين. السلام عليك يا باب حكمة رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا باب حتة الذي من دخله كان من الآمنين. السلام عليك يا عيبة علم الله. السلام عليك يا موضع سر الله. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن الثار والوتر الممتود. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي علت مثناي وأنا أخذ برحلك بابي أنت وأمي ونفسي يا أبا عبد الله. لقد عظمت المصيبة وجلت الرزية بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. فلعن الله أمة أسس أساس النول والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة نفعتكم عن مغامكم وزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. فأبي أنت أمي ونفسي يا أبا عبد الله. أشهد لقد اقشعرت لدمائكم ظلة العرش مع ظلة الخلائق وبكتكم السماء والأرض وسكان الجنان والبر والبحر. صلى الله عليك عدد ما في علم الله. لبيك داعي الله. إن كان لم يجبك بدني عند استغاثتك ولساني عند استنصارك فقد أجابك قلبي وسمعي وبصري. سبحان ربنا إن كان وعد ربنا لمفعولا. أشهد أنك طهر طاهر مطهر من طهر طاهر مطهر. طهرت وطهرت بك البلاد وطهرت أرض أنت بها وطهر حرمك. أشهد أنك قد أمرت بالقسط والعدل ودعوت إليهما وأنك صادق صديق. صدقت فيما دعوت إليه وأنك ثار الله في الأرض. وأشهد أنك قد بلغت عن الله وعن جدك رسول الله وعن أبيك أمير المؤمنين وعن أخيك الحسن ونصحت وجاهدت في سبيل الله وعبدته مخلصا حتى أتاك اليقين. فجزاك الله خير جزاء السابقين. وصلى الله عليك وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وصل على الحسين المظلوم الشهيد الرشيد قتيل الأبرار وأسير الكربات صلاة نامية زاكية مباركة يسعد أولها ولا ينفد آخرها أفضل ما صليت على أحد من أولاد أنبيائك المرسلين يا إله العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد اسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم صاحب الزمان مولانا ومقتدانا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك غافر الذنب والخطيئات إنك على كل شيء قدير. Tonight is the night of dua. Please raise your hands and bring your hajat in your mind. Let's recite this ayah all together. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Eid Mubarak, brothers and sisters.